Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Answers from the Stairs. I'm the host, Chris Fester, and I've got with me a really new addition. I'll say new addition to my life, but I can tell it's not going to be a one and done. Just by the the same pages that we see things from. It's Robert Frehafer, out of Pennsylvania. He is the founder and I guess CEO of Guardian Roofing and Siding out of Pennsylvania. And it's Ben Salem. Is that how I pronounce the name of the town?
That's how you would pronounce it, but it's Southampton currently. But
Gotcha.
yeah, same. It's town right next door. But
Gotcha.
anyway,
And he's been in that space since 2003. So got lots of space and I'm sure stories to talk about for that 22 years of that life. But I want to go back even further. I always, so far with all the people I've interviewed, I always say, like, what's your birthday?
May 16th, 1977.
Okay. Let's start there.
Okay.
I know you don't remember that day, but earliest memory in childhood, something that's you find yourself reflecting on or you feel like shaped you. I think that's a great place to start. If we just look at our stories and say, hey, this is the first story I remember that I think has shaped me today.
So it's two things, right? The memory or the story. So I've heard stories about me before I can remember them, right? Like I've heard stories and those stories that are told by my aunts, my uncles, my family members, they did impact who I was as I was growing up, right? To hear like these stories before I remembered things. But I would say, interestingly enough, that you know we definitely have similar people in our lives, Jay and Jenna, that we touched on briefly. After one TDM with Jay and flying home on the plane, I remember like that's it. I'm writing stuff, right? So I started to write down like stuff, and I'm not saying it's my first memory, but I do remember as a young boy. I don't know how old I was. I could have been in the range of like 3 to 7 because of the location where I was and when we lived there. There was out back of our house in a town called Croydon. It wasn't. It really. It's not known as a really nice place, and there's a lot of negative connotation to it in Bucks County. And but that's where we lived. And out back there was a little garage and to me, it was an apple tree that was probably 1,000 feet tall, but it was probably nothing crazy. And there was a rope swing, like two ropes, a piece of wood drilled out. And when I started to write something, that's what I wrote. Like I wrote about going out to that swing. And I remember sometimes there was bees because there was apples on the ground and this and that. But on that swing, there was like, whatever, however big it was, piece of 2x6 or two by whatever and I remember you could swing on it, but that really wasn't my desire. Every time it was to like wind that swing up and sit on it and twist it till my like feet could barely touch the ground to twist it and then just hold on for the ride, right? Spinning around. And then I would like, you start to realize if you put your feet out and you lean back, you would spin like, I forget what it was. I think it's like a little slower. Then you lean up and into your center of gravity. You start spinning so fast and you get all the way around and it would pop like boom, boom, boom. And it spin back the other way, reel you back up. And I think that I wrote that down as one of like my first memories because it touches on a lot of things, right? Like I was alone. I was an only child. So I was alone. I was out there. I liked to have like a feeling, right? I think that's the part that it really hits is the feeling, the experience of like a euphoric feeling spinning around. Once it stops, your eyes are moving, you can't even walk straight, right? And my life has been shaped by feelings in
Hmm.
one form or the other, right? From drug addiction, desires to do things, excitement with business, right? From a people pleasing standpoint, feelings like they're very strong things for me that I would say with working with Jay, I really recognized some of those things so I can not only act from a feeling standpoint. Now that's been great. I've connected through feelings, empathy, emotion, but just going back to that first memory, I can't really think of other memories. And it's like maybe there's other things that flood timeline. If you ask me what went on last week, it's going to be a challenge for me to tell you timeline. This is when it was, but that's what rises up. This tree, this rope swing, spinning, feeling awesome. The risk. Like sometimes you're holding on for dear life at that time. You're spinning so
Right.
fast, but that excitement, that was awesome. So that's the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
I like that. That holding on for dear life. That's something that sometimes you feel in the business space, right? It's holding on for dear life. Do you remember your first paid job
Paid job.
or job? Because my first
Yeah,
job I wasn't paid for because I worked for my father on the farm, but and I mean the payment was the roof over my head, so it could be that too. But
I I didn't learn that way. I didn't learn like you do work to be part of this household to help do those things. Now I do share that with my in my family. I don't believe that I learned that because I was probably self-centered and wanted the money or the resource or whatever. But I do remember, one time as a young kid, like, yeah, go. Um, it was my mom's boyfriend at the time, and he said, "Yeah, go out and clean that car." And I think it might have only been the windows of the car. And I was doing whatever I was doing, but I remember like learning through a rough teaching, like, no, that's wrong, and you suck at doing that, but this is how you do it, and then get the Windex and use newspaper, right? That's where it goes in my head. And people think I'm crazy. I'm like, yo, grab that newspaper. It's really good for cleaning these
right,
windows.
it
So
is.
if they even, it's not even around like that. Now it's like, certain things that you see, like an ad that they send in the mail. But I remember that was a job, and I was in like if now prior to that, I think I got money to go to the store to buy stuff and use a cardboard box and set it up and cut a hole in it and then stand inside of it. And there was this black weird gutter screening that we might have had that somehow got like taped or stapled in. And I got $20 and I probably felt like I had a gigantic store worth of candy and I probably sold it for whatever and had candy. Like I remember that hard to say a job, but that was, there was always some hustle
Hey, a
that was going on.
a cardboard storefront. That's a hustle. Like that's a real hustle right there. That's for
It's
sure.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so silly. So yeah.
So, but
Um,
before, go ahead.
yeah. No, but it's hard. I have so many things that come to mind of like, all right, what do we consider a real first job, right? That you go to
Oh, that's good.
regularly and you do something like what is to answer the question, right? Like, so that's my first engagement, I'll say, of that. But and I could, tell story after story, but so I'll leave that to you if you want to know
Gotcha.
more on
Yeah.
that front.
So before you started the company that you own now, what I found is you worked for two different places, and actually they overlapped a little bit. So that was almost like you were having two jobs. Like one of them was ADT doing outside sales, and the other one was building sunrooms as a project manager. And there was
Mhm.
some overlap of time there. Um, tell
Yeah.
me about those times. What did you learn in those situations about
So
yourself, about
okay, go ahead. I want to hear that about
just
myself.
about yourself, about how you showed up in those spaces, being an employee. I mean, now you're an employer.
Hmm.
Like, what lessons did you take from those situations?
Hmm. How much time do we have? So in a transparency standpoint, any of these things that you're getting historically, we touched on a little bit. I'm not I didn't update them very well. I wasn't great with timelines. I put things out there and um, on these things to like, especially older content that was put out from here I worked at this one this time to this time, or sunrooms from this time to this time. I think they're fairly accurate. Even as I think back, I'm like, I don't know if that was exactly how it was from a timing standpoint. So I say that to be transparent because I do think it's something that I've learned along the way that in the very beginning, like even when starting Guardian Roofing and Siding, It was Guardian Home Improvements at first because I thought that fit. And you're brand new. I had company experience for 7 years. I did everything I could to convince the Better Business Bureau, because I was a subcontractor at some point. I had 1099s. Then I had a different business, same business, but different name. It was Frehafer's Finishing, to convince them that I had 7 years in business based on that. So I would have a track record so people would trust me moving forward. And what a is the word ironic demonstration. I'm doing the best I can to manipulate information so people would trust me.
Wow.
And I'm not aware, and I'm looking at it like at that, like this is the best way that I can help people. It was, and I wanted to help myself. It's not. I didn't have the mindset that I'm looking to like rob and steal and beat people up, but I knew psychologically that if I just said, "This is my first day in business," my belief was that I would not win over the trust of clients to be able to help them to continue to move on. So when you bring up this question of like, it says you were here at ADT, it says you were here, we're going back, right? Way back, I'm
Way
sure,
back.
for
Way back.
ADT. So,
25 years. Yeah.
so yeah, so in all transparency, we talk about faith, we talk about these things. Like I want to be authentic. And sometimes that means that I have to talk about the crap, right? First, so that it's off my head, and then we talk about the good. So that being said, I'm not sure how much of an overlap there was there, because I really don't remember exactly, but I do remember key things that I can touch on with both of those particular work experiences that, and I could go for hours probably with the things that impacted me. But when you mention Four Seasons sunrooms, building the sunrooms, that's around a time when I had just gotten clean and sober
Mm.
from using intravenous heroin, right? Like, and I didn't do that for a super long time, and that was something in addiction that I would say, I'll never do that, right? I'd never do that. My mom is now 30 something years clean and sober from
Wow.
using heroin and still involved in program, and an amazing miracle of life. And I thank God for her blazing the trails that then gave me and God, gave her the awareness, then it gave me the awareness of a 12-step program, that there's a different way to live and all these different things that has shaped my life. But that's my time in life. Like I got out of rehab. I was working with my dad, like for whatever an hour, like 12, $15 an hour, right? Like sucking it up. I didn't have transportation, like, so that's like that was a real pivotal part in my life. And I learned a lot, work, and not that I didn't know these things, but this was like, it's time to go work really hard. Show up no matter what, you know, learn what you do, grow. So I went from working with my dad, being a crew leader, being a project management, and learned so many things in that business. But one of the things that I would say that I would want to talk about, like what did I learn? I worked with an owner of that company. His name was Al Lopez, and it was fairly chaotic at some points. But there was one thing, like I was doing everything I could as a project manager, and I was handling permits, clients, dealing with the sales reps, reviewing the contract, scheduling the electrician, the foundation crew, the framers, the sunroom builders, the finishers if necessary, going to variances with townships to demonstrate why they should be able to put this sunroom in their home when it doesn't meet the codes, like all these different things. But one thing I say that I probably talked to over and over with staff in my company, and has impacted me, was as I'm navigating all these things, I would get stressed out, like totally stressed. And like, then I'd get short or upset or like not knowing what to do and able to make the decision. And I'd go into this guy's office, and he would say, "Oh, what's, oh, so hold on. Get your list of things. Come in." And the list was long. It could have been 60 clients. These needs electric. These need this. These that. And he was like, let's look at it. What about this? What about that? What's priority? What can you do today? All right, well, let's do that. And then let's get on those things today. And tomorrow we'll do this and we'll get on it. So that one bit of like, because when I'm working from chaos inside, internal chaos, I crap all over everything, right? I could see it, like I could see it and feel there's just so much extra stress that's not, you can't really do anything about these things. So just that moment of clarity to like slow down. And there's one more thing that has been so impactful in my daily life that Al Lopez had definitely impacted me. And dang it, if it wasn't freaking annoying every time, I'll be upset, annoyed, bothered by whatever my perspective was. Like this other project manager, he took the guy, took the electrician, he rescheduled him, blah blah blah, or this guy didn't show up, or whatever this non-conforming behavior that was going on in the company or challenge. He would not side with me. He would not agree with me. He wouldn't just jump in with me like, yeah, let's go. He was like, all right, grab his pen and paper, his coffee. He would like turn away from his computer and sit at me and like, so tell me what happened. And then what happened? And ask all these dang questions to understand what went on. And then start asking me to ask myself, like, do you think that this could have went on? Do you think that this other thing could have went on? How about this thing? So let's, before we go there, let's bring them in. Let's talk to them. Let's ask them what's going on before getting angry, frustrated, like, or not saying before, but now, right? Let's bring them in before forming a, and the takeaway to simple of this is before forming a judgment and aligning with one person that's upset or the view or whatever, let's ask some questions of the other people that are involved. And oh my gosh, what a great useful thing as a leader now in a company, because how many times people are people. I'm emotional. When we see things a certain way, we get attached to that. We get our feelings hurt. We don't even want to talk about it. We form these judgment and make these narratives. So those are, when you talk about like, how's it impacted you? Those are two things that, and I could go on, but those are two things that are huge that when I can practice them well, and I know I'm annoying people when I'm like, let's slow down, let's do this, and I'm extra probably because I have a lot of words and a lot of thoughts, and they have to practice patience with me as we go through. And so yeah, that's from the sunroom side. So I can talk about other
No, I love that.
GDT side.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the Al Lopez, right? School of thought.
Mhm.
Number
Yeah.
one, let's get executive functioning down. What's important first, right?
Yeah.
And then number two, let's ask questions to understand. That's two really big lessons that if
Yeah.
I do the math right, even if it's just a little bit off time, I mean, you're in your early 20s learning those lessons from a guy,
Yes.
that's
Mid
mentoring you.
mid to a little bit after, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhat. Yep.
So, and not long after that, you started the Guardian Roofing. What made you go out and do your own thing? What was the driver to say, I'm going to go out and do this for myself?
So just to reel it back a little bit. So again, I talked about like, all right, this is how it was. When you look at these timelines, they might be a little fuzzy because it's going to say, all right, this long in business. But I did when I worked with the Four Seasons Sunroom Company as the project manager, I'd be on these sites and meeting with the clients and making relationships with them. And Four Seasons didn't do painting, didn't do flooring, didn't do these certain projects that the client needed somebody to get them done. And I was open and transparent with the owner, Al. I said, hey, are you okay if on my off time I go do this work myself and another one of the project managers? And we started to do some small projects. We would go, and it was nice because while you're there, you have the measurement, you have the thing.
Mm,
So from an efficiency standpoint, it was great. And I started my business that way so I can accept a check from a client. I owned a home at the time. I was just starting to get my stuff rolling by that point, and I wanted to have an LLC to have limited liability if something went on, and an insurance policy if because the one that really triggered that was they were like, oh, I'd like you to redo my bathroom. Like, okay, like we really got to get our stuff together, and so that was the motivation to start an LLC. But I still was an employee. So there's this overlap, right, of navigating those things. Then there was a time it came down to it of like, I was either going to, and I have a lot of sales experience. I either was going to go sell um, sunrooms for this company. It was booming at the time. I went through a interview process and got an offer letter from Northwestern Mutual to sell financial products, life insurance, things of that nature. And and then I got a call from a friend of mine was like, "Yo, quit your job and go to Allentown and sell roofing with this company that I'm working for." So it all happened like right in the same time. And I had to make a decision. And after going out and investing at 2 days or 2.5 days driving along with a salesperson from this company, um, I I decided I'm going to go that direction. And then I had my company already. I was paid as a subcontractor. So again, it's like it's great of like this is what you're doing. Same thing I do today, but I did it as a salesperson for total home improvements or THI storm
Mm.
repair. So impactful. And an amazing thing is I just went out to lunch with the owner of the company at that time, this week, Monday morning, and had a
Wow.
breakfast. We talked and like really awesome. And it wasn't that great when nearing the end of the relationship. But so I went that direction and I went all in and it was amazing, changed my life. You know, one unique story that I love to talk about is that right around that time we had our son and our daughter was coming soon. And my mom babysat kids every day. That's what she did. So we had a built-in babysitter. We made
Wow.
all of our myself and my wife made all of our financial decisions based off of both of our incomes, mortgage, car payments, whatever it was. And we did plenty of premarital counsel. We've heard it through marriage classes at church. Base your financial decisions off of one income, and it didn't even register. It was like didn't it bounced off of us like we don't need to even consider that. And then my wife wanted at this similar timing, she wanted to be home with our kids. And it was put, I was like, how are we possibly going to do this? Like, we're not set up like that. She was a computer programmer, held the benefits for us. And God provided through this opportunity of going out and meeting people, inspecting their homes, offering to help them, helping them, and then selling a roofing job afterwards. Changed the landscape of our financial life.
Wow.
Melissa was able to stay home. We were able to pay bills. I was calling my mom month after month, like, you can't believe how much money that I'm making for doing this, for talking to people, right? Like this is so amazing. And I was in and we did it. And I worked with that organization for two years ish, half of 2009, all of 2010, all of 2011 ish. So and traveled around and learned so many things from them. Um and and then I would say that next move was really on my own because I was a sales rep at that point, and I was even though I was working through my own company, but that next move was Guardian Home Improvements. It's all on my shoulders. Leveraging every 0% interest credit card that I can apply for. I learned you can't pay your mortgage with a credit card. Keeping as much cash as I could available, breaking out in like cold sores around my whole mouth like I've
Mm.
never had before. Like that's one sign of the stress that went on. Getting a job while I was trying to run a company. And again, God provided through that. I got a job with Sears Home Improvement selling, and I hit this crazy number of sales bonuses, and then the storm hit, so we were able to transition. Um, so what motivated me from there to do that, working with the last company that I worked with, they were going a different direction to Hawaii to go
Wow.
chase a hailstorm in Hawaii. There was a lot of things that didn't go on awesomely through that company that I learned a lot about, and it made sense to go on my own. And this is a tough spot for me to even talk about it because it's like, I have to look at it like, yeah, I worked with this company, this organization, have this view that I held on longer than anybody else that was with him and stayed true to the organization. It wasn't received well when I left. And just to say it clearly, like it is an amazing, we're going back to 2011 at this point, but from 2009, 10, and 11, it was like brand new opportunity. There was barely any competition. If you look at it now today to what it was, it is a saturated market, and it is not awesome from that standpoint. Still great. I love the opportunity, but um, it was a total different thing. And to watch so many people go through that owner's organization and start their own companies, and just bred so much competition through there. And it was a hard thing for I know it now, for him to experience that. We talked a little bit about that when we met, but I felt loyal and did everything I could to stick and stay. It wasn't received that way when I did depart. So that's a hard thing, but to simple, yeah, and I don't give a lot of simple answers, you'll probably
No.
find out, but simply answer the question, like, what was it like? It was time, right? At that time, it was time for me. Like, I even interviewed with other companies, what their packages were, how it was, and considered it. But I just felt inside like it is my time to what my language wasn't to shoulder the burden of all this responsibility, right? There was a motivation, right? Like, I was excited. I
Mhm.
wanted to, I wanted to, I wanted to grow something. I wanted, I had the vision. It wasn't clear, but there was just enough vision. Like, yeah, I want to grow something awesome, and I want to make these resources, and I want to grow this company, and I want to attract the people to work. And it was already going on quickly, right? And that's what I do, right? Do that thing. And I thought I had enough experience to make it happen, and I was excited. That those are the reasons why I would say went out on my own to do that thing. There's also, I would say, on the flip side of that, there's some more clear reasons. Like, I was a problem. I was a problem when I worked places. I
Mm.
was a problem because I really like, and even with, I remember the operations manager, production manager from THI saying to me, like, dude, what? The client's not even complaining. Why are you even saying this, right? Why are you making this a problem? And he's a great guy. It wasn't like that. He had his own stuff going on, but I'm using that as an example of, like, even when the client didn't see it, I did see it. And I told them, I'm going to treat you like my family. I'm going to make sure that I walk the job and I go over these things. And if something's not right, we're going to get it done right. And then I did it. And then it caused a problem in the places that I worked there, like, because then people are like a little upset with me because I made extra work. And it was a problem for me because I don't want to have conflict. So I think that was a motivation as well. Like, I want to control this. I want to set this standard, and I want to live it out. Now, then experiencing as the business owner, it's really hard there because the same people have a problem when you want them to do the things the way that you want them to do them, but it's different. So that was another motivation. It wasn't just the money. But the money was exciting to me for sure. Like, I would be, that's something that's like almost scary to say, right? To reveal me. It's like, oh, I want it to be about solving people's problems and helping them, and really want to be this awesome guy. I want to be that guy, right? And I believe that I'm starting to come into, like, resolve with this, is that I can be excited about the resources, what that means to me, my life, to what I can do with those things, how I can impact people. But also, it's the other things you don't get to. I don't believe that I'll ever get to experience high level financial success without the other things there, because it will defeat. If it's only about the money, it'll be clearly revealed. And so yeah, so those are some of the reasons why I went on my own.
Yeah. So it's called Guardian Roofing, and I know now Guardian stands for something, and I'm going to get into that. Did it
Mm.
always stand for those things when you named it Guardian Roofing, or is that something that you developed later? Because as
I
I'm
would
hearing you,
say,
because I'm
yeah,
hearing you tell that story, and I do want to dive into what it stands for. But my
yeah.
my curiosity was that the thought process going in, or has that just been through the process of ownership? You said, hey, this is about something more. You just said it. It's the other things. We're never going to reach financial success if we're not doing those other things.
So at that time when the name was selected, I did I was not as educated nor aware of what I was doing. Thankfully, it all comes together. Now, I was aware to the concept that I was like racking my brain for the name, right? What is this going to be? And even to the details, is it restoration? Is it home improvements? What are we? Roofing? What kind of company are we? And then the name, do I want my personal name? Do I want it and son and family? Do I want a larger perspective? I was aware to that capacity. And for me, a lot of thinking goes on in the shower. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Like it was the shower. Like I was in the shower, the name come across, Guardian. Home Improvements is where I landed it, but Guardian was it, right? Like it's Guardian. I did not put together the fact that like I'm going out, I'm being a guardian. I did not put together the fact that like clients need a guardian to help them against these gigantic companies. I wasn't able to put that together, but I was able to put together that like, yeah, I think that language and what the people's perspective of the name is going to be important. I didn't want to go with a small branding type of thing. I did want to go with something that could look and feel larger from a standpoint of growth. I wanted the home improvements because then we could take on more services. But as I realized, I wanted to stay focused in roofing and siding. We changed the brand name to Guardian Roofing and Siding because it's more of what we did. I had to have conversations with people over and over. No, we don't do bathrooms. No, we don't do this. No, we don't do these things. As well as the last 5 years or whatever, 10 years of, understanding the internet. If your name of roofing and siding is in what you do and someone searches for roofing, you'll rise up better. So all these different things from that end. But the way that it was that I've been educated and aware through one of my friends and advisors, Jason Duran.
Yeah.
Um, he was able to take what I lived and codify it through word and language and symbolism. It's right here, right? I already had the graphic, right? And I had great people around me because that's one thing I did have the ability to do is get people that are smarter, more specialized in me to help brand things. So, and it just the way that God like twine these people, the Bible says that he weaves our
Yeah.
lives together. And I
Amen.
envision that like this cloth of life that in time, space, time, location, where we are, and these things that he's blessed me with these relationships. So all that being said, no, I didn't have all of that stuff. It was there. I wanted to live these things out, but I didn't even understand how to use language to create vision as well as get people in alignment or attract people that are in similar alignment. So honest answer, no, I didn't know all that stuff, but I did really like the name. I felt that it was fitting, not even from the depth of what it is. As I look into the rear view, I thank God for that. For me, that's a small thing of where I say my faith comes from. Like God impacts me in so many different ways, but like one of them is that when I step back and look at time, he's already planned it out. He's done it. Like he knew like that's so I'm a super emotional dude too, right? Like so I'll tell you that right now. But he knew in the shower when he gave me the thought and he allowed me to have that and that clicked, like he knew this time already. God knows,
Right.
the beginning from the end. He knows the value of it, the importance of it to me to living it out and how this goes, right? And again, even when I say that, then the part is like I don't do it perfectly, right? Like I struggle. Like I envision somebody watching this like, oh yeah, you do that, you live it out great. Like Jay would say hater, which I need to listen to, right? Like where am I falling short? So in an effort to not ping pong all over the place, no, I did not know these things, but thank God that he did, and he's
Yeah.
made it this awesome way to communicate and live values.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Cause one of the things I try to communicate is when people ask me about my faith, I said, the struggle for me is looking backwards, like you just said, looking in the rearview mirror and seeing all the dots connected, knowing that it can only be God in like God's in those things. And how do you take that faith and apply it through the windshield rather than just the rearview mirror? Right. But like touching on that exact thing when I'm listening to your story and how you're taking care of your customers. And I know that from what little bit of research I've done, Guardian is guardian, unique, attitude, responsible, defend, inspired, authentic, nimble. Did I get those right? I'm assuming those are the
Yes.
values you're living
Yeah.
by,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
were living those out, right? Even when you were working for the Total Home Improvement and working with Al Lopez, like those were things that from your story that were already there. Like the, hey, I'm going to bring I was a problem where I worked because I brought issues to the organization, even if the consumer and the end user of the product didn't even see the issue. Well, that is being a guardian. That is being responsible. That is defending, right? That is being authentic. And now you're able to do it and keep yourself nimble. You're definitely inspired. Like it's easy to see your inspiration in things. I mean, you're an energetic, like that's how I see inspiration. um like you said it, the attitude, like one of the things you learned is like asking questions to understand, like that's definitely going to affect your attitude every day. So I mean, you're throughout every step, you just said it, you're he God gave you that name, and then as you begin to look at it and go, okay, how am I living out values, and what does that mean for the name of the brand? Is that how it came about? Is that how you came up with those? Just looking at living things out, and I'd love to hear a quick story about that as we
Yeah.
take that next
I
step
can
on the stairs.
I can talk about how that came to be. And it's often, it's not only us, our discussion, but you know, you talked about, I think prior to us jumping on, actually on the recorded spot of like how, the stairs, the answer at the top of the stairs, and you would give credit back to, hey, I read this, I did this. So, the way that those values came about in written word, was Jay Duran. He
Mm.
followed me, he shadowed me, and he wrote down what he saw. Right. So it wasn't even something that I wrote like, oh yeah, this is what it is. I don't know that my awareness or education was, I just knew this is what we do. I need to do this. I do, but there's a feeling or inspiration, and there's these internal conflicts that go on, right? Like that, or external conflicts. And so yeah, so he, I and that's a longer story. Met with Jay, and agreed with him that I wanted his services, and hired him for the first stage of it, which was I want to say, done for you, right? Values, mission, vision, purpose, goals, right? Like, and first stage of a relationship. He probably has a better name for it in his business, layout. Um, but that being said, that was highly valuable for me to codify, to put word to what I do. And even when I did it, when he started to give it back to me, I was like, I don't know, right? Like, okay, I see it. And even the words, right, are different, because the definition, you know, is not exactly what you would get if you looked up attitude or nimble or guardian, right? Like they're created definitions from Guardian's perspective, the company's perspective. And this is something I really enjoy to talk about now. But no, I didn't write them. I didn't create them. And it took it's still going on, a lot of practice to even bring the language into the company, right? Because but I recognize now the value of that medium to speak through these ways. So that being said, I wanted to add too is that, and I appreciate what you're saying is like, okay, these values were being lived out in the sunroom company, in the total home improvements. And I would say that, as with a lot of things in my life, they've evolved. And I would say from awareness, or like, because I'm changing, right?
Sure,
I am
sure.
hopefully growing in areas. So what was an understanding of it changes over time. And I just say that because it's like, man, I don't know that I had the same level of awareness, execution, and understanding of these values at those certain times in life. So that's changed with education, experiences, the people that
Mm.
I'm around and spend time with and hold me accountable. So I'll digress on that point. But So there was a spark, let's say,
Yeah.
uh, and some of them I'm sure came in as
Yeah.
time went on.
And I'll speak about the whole Jay following you around. Your book came out probably way better than mine. I told somebody having Jay follow me around for 3 or 4 days, and then he wrote me a 300-page book of every way that I was really horrible. Like, because you've got to be self-aware.
Well,
Like you
I
got to be
don't know.
aware.
I think there was a lot of horribleness in there. Like, but go ahead.
Yeah, but
In that book.
yeah, but that self-awareness matters, you know.
Yeah.
But gaining perspective from someone else's 30,000 foot view, I
Mm.
think makes all the sense in the world. So as I,
What was
you know,
what was one thing? What was one thing in your book that rises to your mind right now? Small,
oh,
right? That was like, oh, that he's hit you like, oof.
so I had never heard of the 4 types of leaders of an organization. I don't know if Jay's ever talked to you about this, but there's arsonist, there's the lone wolf, there's the bureaucrat, and the soapy fish. Like those are the way he articulates different ways people lead. The lone wolf goes in every day, he just gets it done. Like he's just nose to the grindstone, won't delegate anything. Sun up, sundown. The bureaucrat's all about the rules. It's just got to be the rules. You got to follow the rules. The soapy fish, if you imagine a soapy fish, like you can't ever get a right answer out of a yes man. So the soapy fish is the yes man. And then the arsonist is the one who comes in the room. You never know when he's going to come in. He's going to come in, he's going to burn everything down and then leave it for everybody else to clean up. I never saw myself as an arsonist. Yeah,
I was
like
about to
I
hate
am
him.
absolutely an arsonist, and being made aware of that, and then now in any given moment, like that was such a gift because over the last I'll say 3 or 4 years of being told that about myself and starting to be self-reflective of that of like don't walk in the room and burn it down. Don't walk in their room and assume that everybody's excited for you to be there. Like it's just so that was it's something that hurt because I didn't see myself that way. But probably one of the biggest gifts that Jake's given me is helping me understand, Chris, it's okay to be those things. You just got to know when to be those things because there's sometimes you've got to be, hey, processes and rules have got to be followed. And there's sometimes you got to be the lone wolf because it's got to get done and nobody's going to do it. So you just got to you've got to be the doer. And then there's sometimes
Yeah.
when you in the room, you just need to say yes. So you can sit back, reflect, and ask questions. And I mean, so it's knowing how to use those methods, I'll call them of leadership is the way he's explained it to me, but get away from when you're under pressure, you're the arsonist. So like under pressure, just recognize that's who you're going to default to and try to move away from that. And because it gives everybody around you the opportunity to lead. You know?
Yeah.
So and I said, I want
Well,
to be respectful of your time.
yeah.
As we close, and people that are listening to this and they've heard this journey, right? This journey from drug addiction to 20 years of marriage. We barely touched on that, but you've been married to Melissa this September will be 25 years or 20 years.
No, no.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No. I think it's gonna be 19 years. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be because I've been saying as soon as we crossed over, I said I'm on my 19th year of marriage. So it will be 19. I think this now I'm really gonna get in trouble. I'm 99 sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
2005 to 2000 to
25.
2025 is actually 19 years, right? That's not 20 years because the first year is
Yeah.
6. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at 19 years. We're getting there. Still
Yeah.
great.
But
Yeah, just to say something about that.
sure.
One of the most, I would say, the most important things in my life. I feel the most. Um, God has given me a lot of opportunity to have like accomplishments. That one is the most to have a relationship, stay married, and I guess proud. I feel like the most like oh man, it's the most meaningful. Like such a great accomplishment that I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to have. And then the other thing that I would say to everybody, and this is something that's deeply important to me. It has been hard. We were two broken people that brought real hard relationships together, and we've hurt each other, and we've done a lot of counseling. But and there's been times when, it's been real hard and strained, and my wife definitely felt like leaving, wanted to. Thank God that she had this resolve inside to honor the commitment to God. So then she would stay with me. And then he gave her the heart to continue to work. And I made a lot of poor choices as a husband in business and life and different priorities on not being aware. And again, a huge shout out to Jay for helping me understand a lot of these things. And it's our marriage is totally revolutionized. Not that it's not hard and we
Amen.
don't have flare ups of little things, but I say that because like it's the most important thing. Like everything to me, everything else crumbles around that. So, you know, thanks for bringing it up. I'd love to talk more about all kinds of stuff with it. But what was the next thing you were
I
going
was
to
just gonna
say?
say and that was a great takeaway. You talked about the importance of having the right partner. You know, that life partner. You know, like that wife to lean on or a husband to lean on. Um, that is
Well, the,
willing
the
to.
encouragement, here's the encouragement. Sorry to cut you off, but it's like in an argument to that point is that we weren't right. We were not the right partners. We were not like gelling and doing well. And it's God, right? It's God that has
Right.
refined, and it's God that's changed our hearts. And now we gave us the heart to be willing and motivated. But the hope is that to the entrepreneur, if that's who's listening or whoever, like if it sucks and it's terrible and you can't even find a way, like don't give up. Hold on to that commitment and reach out. And I'll give you some guidance how to go about this, right? Like because the other side is amazing. Still hard,
Yes.
but amazing.
Yeah. And I feel you there. That's a story that I know that you and I share, for sure. If people want to, you said reach out. If people want to find you and reach out to you, what's the best place for them to reach out to you and have conversation?
That's great. So, my name is Robert Frehafer. Last name's Frehafer. All my stuff is public. If you go on, Facebook, Instagram, it's all there. So whatever there is public, you can message me anyway. I'm not super on like the DMs from, you know, those social media, but I'll see them here and there. And then my cell phone. Someone can text me, call me 215-436-4891. I guess I'm kind of an old man in that way. And then we can take it from there, especially if it's something about this, like, or anything really, then we gauge how much time and what's the best medium. But yeah, call or text me 215-436-4891.
Robert,
Same number for 30 years.
I, Robert, man, I really, truly appreciate your time, your wisdom, your story. I think it's been great. Thank you so much.
Before we bounce,
Yeah,
can I say a prayer?
absolutely. For sure. Please.
Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us together and getting to know each other more. Thank you for this opportunity to communicate and give you glory in in our lives. Two men that you've blessed tremendously. Lord, we hope that this would be a blessing to others, that you would help us to um, provide value and be light in this world. And most importantly, Lord, that in any way that this would go out and impact somebody, that they would want to know you, Jesus, know what our relationship is with you, how you've saved us from death and eternal separation. Thank you for all you do. And Lord, I'd be remiss if I didn't lift Jay and Jenna to you, that they would know you, love you, and that we would be impactful to their lives. In Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, brother.